They dragged her out like a criminal. Not because she stole anything. Not because she caused a scene. But because she looked like someone who didn't belong. Her name is Jordan Ellis. And 15 minutes before the entire hotel staff was fired, she was being escorted out the front doors of a luxury midtown Manhattan hotel, in full view of dozens of guests and hundreds of thousands watching online. The security guards didn't know. The front desk clerk didn't know. The manager who barked the orders certainly didn't know. But Jordan. She knew everything. She knew the exact cost of every chandelier above her head. She knew the square footage of the penthouse suite. She knew how many years were left on the building's lease. Why? Because she owned the entire hotel. This isn't a made-up story. This isn't a Hollywood script. This happened. And if you think being black and successful in America is enough to protect you from discrimination, Jordan's story is going to shake you. She didn't fight. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't even flinch. She checked her Rolex, adjusted the collar of her camel coat, and let the world see what quiet power looks like. There were smartphones everywhere. Someone was live streaming. The views climbed from 10,000 to 50,000 to nearly 100,000 within minutes. The hashtag #HotelWhileBlack exploded across social media. But Jordan didn't care about going viral. She cared about accountability. She cared about what would happen after this moment. When the cameras stopped rolling, when apologies started flying, when people realized just how big of a mistake they had made. She could have walked away. She could have said nothing. But she didn't. Because sometimes, the only way to fix the system is to show the world just how broken it really is. And now, she's ready to tell you what really happened that morning, step by step, word for word, name by name. So sit down. Because this isn't just a story. It's a warning. And it starts right here. At exactly 10:21 a.m., Jordan Ellis stepped out of the back seat of a black Lincoln Navigator. Snowflakes drifted lazily through the gray Manhattan sky, melting the moment they touched the pavement. Her heels clicked confidently across the concrete as she approached the revolving glass doors of the Empire Crest Hotel. She looked like the kind of woman who didn't just belong in a place like this. She looked like she designed it. Tailored camel trench coat. Silk scarf with gold accents. Chocolate brown leather briefcase from a Paris boutique that doesn't sell online. And a walk, shoulders back, chin forward, like she didn't ask for respect. She just expected it. Inside, the lobby was all marble and modern opulence. Brushed steel, polished wood, $3,000 a night lighting. Jordan paused at the front desk. Behind the counter stood Kylie, a 20-something blonde woman in a black blazer and too much confidence. Kylie was scrolling her phone with one hand, sipping an iced oat milk latte with the other. Jordan placed her Platinum American Express black card on the counter. Checking in. Reservation under Ellis. Kylie didn't even look up. "I'm sorry, ma'am, are you sure you're in the right place?" Her tone was sticky sweet, like someone pretending to be polite while very much not being polite. Jordan offered a small smile. "Pretty sure. Empire Crest, Midtown. Reservation made last week." Kylie gave a forced laugh. "Our rooms start at $975 per night. We typically book months in advance. Do you maybe want to double-check your confirmation number?" "I don't need to," Jordan said simply. Kylie finally glanced up, and her eyes did a full scan. Skin tone. Hair texture. No wedding ring. Her gaze said everything her mouth didn't. Still, Jordan stayed calm. She reached into her bag and laid the printed confirmation on the counter. Highlighted, underlined, time-stamped. Kylie looked at it, frowned, and said, "This doesn't seem to be in the system." A pause. Then the final blow. "You may want to try somewhere a little more comfortable. The Holiday Inn Express is about 8 blocks down." Jordan blinked once. That was all. Then she looked at her watch, 10:24 a.m., and said, almost to herself, 3 minutes. That's how long it took to turn this into a case study. The moment was locked in, unshakable, documented, and the clock had started ticking. The silence stretched, thick enough to slice through. Jordan didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She simply looked down at the reservation confirmation Kylie had just dismissed, then back up, slow and deliberate. "I'd like to speak with your manager," she said. Kylie didn't flinch. She'd done this dance before. She gave a little shrug, then tapped something on her screen with perfectly manicured nails. Tom will be right out, she said, her tone clipped and dismissive. But just so you know, we're fully booked today. 2 minutes later, Tom Whitaker appeared from a side office. Mid-50s, salt and pepper hair, navy blazer too tight around the middle. The kind of man who had built a career off of firm handshakes, golf course relationships, and the illusion of control. He walked up with a practiced smile, until he saw Jordan. His expression faltered, just slightly. Is there a problem here? He asked Kylie. She claims she has a reservation, but I can't find it in the system, Kylie said, clearly in front of Jordan on purpose. Tom turned to her. Ma'am, if you'd be so kind as to step aside, we have other guests waiting. Jordan held her ground. I have a confirmed reservation. Under Ellis. It was booked 5 days ago. Paid in full. Tom took the paper she extended, scanned it, raised an eyebrow. I'm afraid this doesn't match what's in our system, he said. Jordan met his gaze evenly. Did you check the corporate bookings file? She asked. He blinked. There it was. She watched him hesitate, just a fraction of a second. But instead of checking, he folded the paper and handed it back. I'm going to ask you to leave now, he said. We can't have disruptions in the lobby. Disruption? Jordan asked, voice calm as a frozen lake. I haven't raised my voice. I haven't used profanity. I simply asked to check into a room I paid for. Tom gestured toward the door. There are plenty of budget hotels nearby. You're welcome to try one of those. That did it. People in the lobby started paying attention. A man with a laptop angled his webcam. A couple by the fireplace exchanged looks. Someone whispered, "Is this happening?" Jordan reached into her briefcase and pulled out her phone. She didn't record. She didn't call. She opened a note app and started typing. "What are you doing?" Tom snapped. Jordan looked up. "Documenting," she said softly. "Every word, every glance, every witness." And just like that, it was no longer a conversation. It was an incident. One that was just beginning. The first video hit Twitter within 90 seconds. It wasn't even Jordan's idea. A hotel employee, young, probably no older than 20, had been watching from the concierge station. His name tag read Deshaun, but his face said everything his job wouldn't let him say out loud. He'd seen this kind of thing before, so he did the only thing that felt right. He pulled out his phone. He started recording the moment Tom Whitaker told Jordan Ellis to try somewhere more affordable. No filter. No edits. No captions. Just raw footage. By the time Jordan finished her sentence, every word, every witness, that clip had already reached 2,300 views. Then 5,100. Then 12,000. The algorithm knew gold when it saw it. By the front entrance, a travel blogger named Ricky Tran had been live streaming his check-in process for his 500,000 YouTube subscribers. His phone had accidentally caught the tail end of the exchange. He zoomed in. His chat exploded. Wait, is that racial profiling? Yo, someone tag at Black Twitter. Is this real time? Ricky adjusted his camera. Guys, I don't know what's going on over there, but that lady looks serious. She's not yelling. She's not arguing. But they're acting like she doesn't belong. You seen this? His viewers were definitely seeing it. The hashtag #HotelWhileBlack appeared. Then reappeared. Then trended. Within 5 minutes, it hit local trending status in New York City. Another 3 minutes later, it cracked the US top 20. Commenters flooded in from every corner of the country. She's clearly a guest. Look at her. She's more put together than half the staff. Bet she owns more than they think. Jordan stood motionless, phone still in hand, watching the ripples turn into waves. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't celebrating. She was calculating. Every eye in the room was now watching, not just the people inside the lobby, but tens of thousands beyond the glass, behind phones, on couches, at coffee shops, watching live. Tom glanced around, visibly sweating now. Kylie went pale as her own phone buzzed. Her friend had sent her a screenshot of the trending topic, with her face in the background. Deshaun kept recording, face blank. Jordan finally looked up from her screen and spoke again. Tom, she said, her voice low but deliberate, you may want to rethink your position. Right now, It's not just me in this lobby. She glanced toward the ceiling, where the hotel's surveillance cameras blinked. It's all of us. Tom Whitaker had reached his boiling point. His face flushed red, the kind of red that always came before a bad decision. His voice, sharper now, cut through the air like a blade. Security now, he snapped. Escort this woman off the property. She's trespassing. Jordan didn't move. She didn't blink. She just stood there, one hand resting on her briefcase, the other still holding her phone, not recording, not calling, just present. The hotel's 2 uniformed security guards emerged from opposite ends of the lobby. Miguel Alvarez and Andre Jackson. Both men stood well over 6 feet. Broad shoulders, pressed black jackets, earpieces curled behind their ears. They looked the part, intimidating, professional. But neither moved quickly, because they saw what everyone else was seeing. A composed black woman in designer heels. A crowd filming from every angle. A TikTok livestream still gaining viewers by the thousands. And now a woman in the corner was FaceTiming her husband, repeating everything she saw. Andre hesitated first. He leaned in toward Tom and asked, quietly, "You want us to put hands on her? On camera?" Tom's jaw tightened. "She's not a guest. She's loitering. I gave her multiple chances." Miguel exchanged a look with Andre. They'd both worked security for over a decade. NBA arenas, music festivals, even airports. They knew what trouble looked like. This wasn't it. Still, orders were orders. They approached Jordan cautiously, one to each side. Neither of them touched her. "Ma'am," Andre said, voice calm, "we're being asked to escort you outside." Jordan turned her head slightly. Looked him in the eye. "You understand," she said softly, "that everything happening right now is being recorded. This isn't just footage. This is evidence." Andre swallowed. Miguel shifted his stance. "I haven't raised my voice," Jordan continued. "I haven't resisted. I have documentation of my reservation. And I haven't moved an inch." The silence returned. Heavy. Charged. Tom barked from behind them. "Do your job." Andre took a breath. "Ma'am, would you be willing to step outside with us, peacefully?" Jordan looked forward. Looked past them. Then she stepped back. Not away from them. Toward the center of the lobby. She raised her voice just slightly. "If anyone here believes I'm being treated fairly, speak up now." Silence. Not one word. Only phones. Only camera shutters. Only the quiet tension of a room that had suddenly realized it was being watched. Every move, every mistake, every injustice, documented. Jordan finally nodded. "To the door then," she said. And with grace that no one could deny, she began walking. But not as someone being removed. As someone walking through a fire, without ever getting burned. By the time Jordan Ellis reached the glass doors, the first news van screeched to a halt at the curb. Its side read WNYC News, live now in bold blue letters. A camera operator jumped out, adjusting his shoulder rig as he jogged toward the entrance. Behind him, a woman in a long wool coat and high boots clipped across the sidewalk, microphone in hand. Her name was Michelle Boone, a senior reporter with 20 years of broadcast experience, and a reputation for sniffing out injustice like smoke before a fire. Michelle didn't wait for permission. She pushed through the crowd of guests and staff, slipped between the 2 security guards, and stepped directly in front of Jordan. "Ma'am," she said, already live, "we're on air right now with Channel 4. Can you tell us your name, and why you're being escorted out of the Empire Crest Hotel?" Jordan looked at her. Not startled, not surprised. Prepared. "My name is Jordan Ellis," she said clearly, voice carrying across the lobby. "I'm the CEO of the Ellis Group, and I have full ownership of this building and every square foot above and below it." Gasps. Not dramatic ones. Not scripted. Real, stunned, unrehearsed. Michelle blinked. She lowered the mic, just for a second. "Wait. You own this hotel?" Jordan nodded once. "Yes. And I have the documentation to prove it." The camera zoomed in. Phones shot up like fireworks. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Michelle raised the mic again, this time with new urgency. "You were denied service here?" "I was told I didn't belong," Jordan replied. despite a valid reservation, prepayment, corporate identification, and verified credentials. She turned slightly, making sure her words reached the staff behind her. I was told to try a cheaper hotel. One more appropriate for someone like me. Michelle stepped aside. And now, Jordan looked at the lens. Now, we're going to show the world what accountability looks like. The lobby fell into complete silence. Then, movement. Guests from the elevators. Staff peeking from back offices. People from the street pressing their faces to the tall lobby windows. Outside, more media crews arrived. NBC, ABC, CNN. Reporters, photographers, producers, rushing toward a story that was writing itself in real time. And right at the center of it all stood Jordan Ellis. Composed, unshaken, and completely in control. The flash of cameras was still popping when a second black SUV pulled up to the curb. But this wasn't press. This was city government. Out stepped Jason Rivera, the mayor of New York City. No entourage. No speechwriter. Just a man in a charcoal coat, with snow still clinging to the cuffs and a city seal pin on his lapel. He moved fast. Inside the Empire Crest lobby, the energy shifted again, like a storm system just dropped pressure. Jason's eyes scanned the room. He didn't need an introduction. He knew exactly who he was looking at. Jordan Ellis, he called out, loud enough to cut through the murmurs. Jordan turned her head, calm as ever. Mayor Rivera, she said, like they were meeting for a coffee, not in the middle of a media firestorm. Jason strode over. No cameras. No notes. Just presence. I saw the feed, he said quietly, just between them. You could. Jordan gave the smallest nod. I'm fine. But this building isn't. He exhaled slowly. Figures. You invest in the city, and the city still finds a way to embarrass itself. Then louder, turning toward the crowd, the press, the staff. Let me be very clear, Mayor Rivera announced. Ms. Ellis is not only a guest of this hotel, she's its owner. She's one of New York's leading black executives. She's built more jobs in the city than most corporations combined. He let that settle. And the way she's been treated here today? That's not just a mistake, it's a mirror. And if you don't like what you see, maybe it's time to stop pretending it's someone else's problem. The press jumped on his words. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras refocused. But the mayor wasn't here to grandstand. He leaned toward Jordan again. You want me to step in publicly, or stay out of your way? Jordan smiled. Just barely. Stay close, but let me finish this. Jason nodded, then turned to the press. You get my statement later. For now, I suggest you keep your mics on her. He stepped aside. All attention returned to Jordan. Not because the mayor told them to, but because everyone could feel it now. This wasn't a scandal anymore. It was a reckoning. And Jordan Ellis was writing it in real time. Jordan Ellis didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She simply turned toward the concierge desk, took 3 measured steps, and placed her leather briefcase on the gleaming marble counter. Then, with the slow precision of someone who'd rehearsed this in her mind a dozen times, she unzipped it. Silence fell again. The cameras zoomed in. Everyone leaned forward, physically or mentally, waiting. She pulled out a folder. Blacked. Embossed. Sake. It had a gold seal pressed into the front that shimmered beneath the lobby lights. Ellis Group Holdings, confidential. Tom Whitaker stepped forward, still visibly sweating. What's this now? Jordan didn't even look at him. She opened the folder. Inside were legal documents, printed on thick executive stock. Pages marked with official state seals. Contracts bearing corporate logos. Signature lines signed in black ink. Names that mattered. She pulled one out and held it up to the nearest camera. Ownership agreement, she said calmly. Dated 3 months ago. Full acquisition of Empire Crest Holdings and all its affiliated properties. Kylie audibly gasped. Behind her, the assistant bellhop dropped a luggage cart handle. Jordan continued. This includes the land, the structure, the branding, intellectual property, employee contracts, vendor relationships, and, most importantly, every single paycheck issued from this address. She turned slowly to face Tom. That includes yours. His lips parted, but no words came out. She wasn't done. Jordan pulled out her driver's license next, held it up to the cameras. Clear. Undeniable. Jordan Noel Ellis. Next came her corporate ID. Chief Executive Officer. Ellis Group Holdings. It sparkled under the lights like a badge. No one moved. No one blinked. The moment cracked wide open. Reporters shouted questions. Guests stepped back in disbelief. Social media exploded. The phrase, "She owns the hotel," trended #1 on Twitter within 90 seconds. Live comments flew across the screen. Plot. Freaking. Twist. Tom's career just hit the delete button. Queen move. Calm. Savage. Legal. And Jordan. She just smiled. Not smugly. Not arrogantly. Just enough to let the world know, this was never chaos. This was strategy. And now it was time to turn the page. The moment Jordan closed the folder, her phone buzzed. She glanced down. One message. From her chief legal officer. Standing by for Protocol X. Ready when you are. Jordan tapped reply with one hand and raised her eyes to the crowd with the other. All right, she said calmly, as if announcing a lunch order. Let's begin. The entire lobby froze. What does that mean? Tom Whitaker asked, voice cracking. Jordan didn't answer him. She tapped a voice command on her phone. Ellis Group, initiate Protocol X. Code Alpha Manhattan. The phone buzzed back with confirmation. Almost instantly, things began to move. 3 hotel employees' phones started ringing. Simultaneously. One of them, Deshaun, the quiet concierge who had recorded everything, picked up. He looked up at Jordan. It's your HR rep. They're asking to speak with me about a promotion. Jordan nodded once. Take the call. You've earned it. Kylie's phone buzzed too. But hers was a very different kind of call. She hesitated, then answered. Hello. Yes, this is Kylie Patterson. Wait, what? She turned pale. Her voice dropped. Effective immediately? She looked at Jordan, eyes wide. Jordan didn't blink. Tom pulled his phone from his blazer pocket, fumbled with the unlock, checked his inbox. It was there. Subject line, urgent, employee status notice. He tapped it. Read 2 lines. Then went silent. Jordan turned to the cameras and the press, her voice steady. Protocol X is part of our internal quality assurance initiative, she explained. We use it to assess how our properties are functioning when leadership isn't expecting oversight. She looked at Michelle Boone, the Channel 4 reporter still recording. It's a field audit program. And this morning? This hotel failed. Tom found his voice again, barely. This can't be how you handle staff concerns. Jordan cut him off with one sentence. You are no longer staff. The crowd gasped again. Jordan addressed everyone, eyes scanning the staff. I don't believe in public humiliation. But I do believe in public accountability. She pulled another document from her briefcase. This is the revised management structure for Empire Crest, effective immediately. Those who treated guests with dignity today are being promoted. Those who didn't are being replaced. Outside, snow fell quietly over Manhattan. Inside, a storm of change had just begun. An hour later, the Empire Crest Sky Lounge, usually reserved for billion-dollar views and champagne toasts, had been transformed into a war room. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a snowy New York skyline, but no one in the room was looking outside. They were looking at Jordan Ellis. She stood at the head of a long walnut conference table, flanked by corporate counsel, her chief of operations, and 2 Ellis Group executive advisors who had been flown in by helicopter that morning. The remaining hotel management, those still employed, sat stiffly along the sides, eyes on the giant screen mounted on the far wall. Let's be clear, Jordan began. This is not about one incident. This is about patterns. She tapped a button on the sleek touchpad in front of her. The screen came to life with a heat map, bright red circles over locations across the U.S., each representing a complaint filed against Ellis Group properties for racial or gender-based discrimination in the past 12 months. This hotel, she said, pointing, has received 6 complaints in the last 90 days. That's more than any of our properties nationwide. A murmur passed through the room. Jordan clicked to the next slide. It showed screenshots of anonymous guest reviews, internal emails, ignored training reminders, and survey data with plummeting satisfaction scores for guests of color. "This is not a PR problem," she said. "This is a systems failure." She clicked again. A new slide loaded. Ellis Group policy revisions, effective immediately. The list scrolled slowly, but every line packed a punch. Mandatory unconscious bias training for all employees within 30 days. Launch of Ellis Insights, an internal app for anonymous incident reporting. Monthly third-party diversity audits. Guest experience surveys with weighted questions on respect, fairness, and inclusion. Executive bonuses tied to equity performance metrics, not just revenue. Someone at the table raised their hand. It was Anika Patel, the front desk supervisor who had tried to de-escalate things earlier that morning. "Will this apply across all Ellis properties?" Jordan nodded. "Every single one." The screen faded to black. Jordan folded her arms. "I don't care about being popular. I care about being accountable." She stepped closer to the table. "If you're sitting here wondering whether you'll keep your job, ask yourself one question. Did you treat people like they mattered?" Silence. Then Anika nodded. Quiet but certain. Jordan turned and walked to the window, staring out at the snow-covered skyline. Change was no longer a buzzword. It had a date, a time, and an implementation plan. And it had just started here. The conference room was still. No buzzing phones. No whispering. Just the kind of silence that comes right before truth lands hard. Jordan Ellis stood at the head of the table, hands resting lightly on the polished surface, making eye contact with each person in the room. She wasn't angry. She was surgical. "This is the part," she began, "where we separate reaction from reflection." Her eyes settled on Tom Whitaker, the former manager now seated halfway down the table, back straight, jaw clenched. "Mr. Whitaker," she said evenly, "you have 30 seconds. Tell me why you should still have a role in this company." Tom hesitated. He had the look of a man who'd spent a lifetime using charm and confidence as armor, and for the first time, it wasn't enough. I made a mistake," he said, clearing his throat. "I misjudged a situation. And for that, I'm truly sorry." Jordan didn't blink. "Is that it?" Tom fumbled. I've served this hotel for over 15 years. My track record speaks for itself." Jordan leaned forward slightly. "Your track record includes 3 prior guest complaints for discriminatory behavior, one of which was settled out of court for a non-disclosure fee. Care to explain those?" Tom looked down. Silence again. "Next, Kylie Patterson." Jordan shifted her focus. "Kylie, you were at the front desk. You had a moment, a brief one, to treat me like a human being. You chose not to." Kylie's voice cracked. "I didn't know who you were." "And that," Jordan interrupted gently, "is the problem." She stepped away from the table, slow and intentional. "It was never about knowing who I was. It was about assuming who I wasn't." The words hit like a stone dropped in still water. Ripples of truth. She paused beside Anika, the supervisor who had spoken up earlier. "You tried," Jordan said softly. "You hesitated. You questioned what you were seeing. That matters." Anika nodded, clearly emotional. "I wanted to say more. I just didn't know if I could." Jordan gave a faint smile. "You can now." She returned to the head of the table. "To everyone else, I don't demand perfection. I demand awareness. I demand the courage to question comfort. Because comfort, left unchecked, is where bias hides." She picked up a folder from the table. Inside, performance reviews, complaint logs, promotion recommendations. "You each have a choice," she said. "Join the change, or step aside so we can build something better." A long pause. Then Jordan looked around. "This is your last opportunity to move with integrity." And for the first time that morning, people began to rise. Not to walk out, but to stand up. By the next morning, the story had reached every screen in America. It was on morning news. It was on podcasts. It was in group chats and Slack threads. It was trending in 3 languages on Twitter and had already racked up over 19 million views across platforms. But more than that, it had become a mirror. The footage of Jordan Ellis being escorted out of her own hotel, then calmly revealing her ownership, wasn't just viral. It was cultural. Comment sections overflowed with personal stories. I was followed in a store last week. No one believed me, until now. My sister got passed over for a hotel manager job she was qualified for. I wonder why. Jordan Ellis just became the role model my daughter didn't know she needed. People weren't just watching, they were reacting, reflecting, and more importantly, responding. Within 48 hours, Empire Crest's bookings had surged 42%. Travel influencers posted support, urging followers to book where dignity is non-negotiable. Other Black-owned hotels saw spikes in traffic. Guests were putting their dollars where their values were. And inside the hospitality industry, the ripple became a wave. Executives at Hilton, Marriott, and Hyatt reportedly held emergency internal reviews of their own bias training programs. Emails leaked. One VP wrote, "We don't want to be the next Jordan Ellis headline. Fix the cracks now." Meanwhile, local governments across 5 major cities requested copies of Ellis Group's anti-discrimination policy for use in their own civil service departments. Colleges reached out to Jordan's team, asking her to speak at business schools. Howard University, NYU, Georgetown, all requested guest lectures, some offering full course curriculum naming the incident as a case study in executive leadership and ethical systems design. And it didn't stop there. Employees from other Ellis Group hotels, janitors, front desk clerks, kitchen staff, posted videos thanking Jordan for the new training, for being the first CEO who actually showed up, and for proving that quiet strength can rewrite culture. One video from a housekeeper in Miami went viral on its own. In it, she said, "I've worked in hotels for 20 years. This is the first time I felt like someone in charge saw me." The comment, pinned to the top? Change doesn't start with noise. It starts with example. Jordan Ellis is the example. 6 weeks later, Jordan Ellis stood on a stage at Harvard Business School. The auditorium was full. Students, faculty, executives from Fortune 500 companies, even public officials sat in quiet anticipation. Behind her, a massive screen read, "Quiet Power. Visible Change." Jordan didn't start with numbers. She didn't quote quarterly growth or mention the 23% spike in revenue Ellis Group had seen since the incident. She started with a pause. A long one. Then she said, "When someone tells you they were disrespected, believe them, even if they don't own the building." The audience leaned in. "This isn't about firing people," she continued. "It's about fixing systems. Because if we keep replacing faces without redesigning the foundation, nothing truly changes." She spoke of standards, not rules, not threats, but expectations. That dignity isn't optional. That silence from leadership is as loud as discrimination itself. That it's not enough to have a DEI statement on your website, you need a policy in motion, not just in writing. She closed her speech with something simple. A lesson anyone could apply, no matter their title. Power isn't about making people afraid. It's about building systems where fear has no room to grow. I wasn't dragged out of my own hotel to prove a point. But I stayed, to create one. Standing ovation. But Jordan didn't linger in the applause. She stepped off the stage, back into work. Because for her, change wasn't a headline. It was a habit. Back at Empire Crest, the walls were still the same color. The chandeliers still sparkled. But the atmosphere had changed. And the people. They stood taller, listened more, spoke up quicker. The final scene wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. A young front desk agent offering water to a nervous guest who clearly didn't feel like they belonged. "Welcome," he said with a smile. "We're glad you're here." And that's how systems change. For good.